Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday the 17th of February 2026. There's no apologies, however we do have Councillor Churchill and Councillor Wagner joining us online this morning. Thank you, councillors. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is messages of condolence. Do we have any messages of condolence? I'll have a message of condolence. I'll move at the next council meeting, but not for today, in relation to Harold Harvey. Prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Councillor Leanne Patrick, inform the meeting that I have a declarable conflict of interest in agenda item G 4.4, Community Investment Program, Connected Communities Fund, due to my husband's, Nathan Patrick, businesses McDonald's Boyne Island and McDonald's Kirkwood, being a financial member of the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is a funding applicant today. There is a potential that McDonald's Boyne Island and McDonald's Kirkwood could be a beneficiary of the Buy Local 2025-26 campaign. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I believe I would be reasonably be perceived to be impartial, because whether or not the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry Inc. is successful in their application, this would not have a significant impact on McDonald's Boyne Island or McDonald's Kirkwood. It is not certain that either businesses would participate in or benefit from the campaign, and the businesses stand to gain no greater benefit than any other member of the Gladstone Chamber of Commerce and Industry Inc. Therefore, I wish to remain in the meeting and ask eligible councillors to decide if I may participate in the debate and decision-making despite my declarable conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Before we discuss that, Councillor Holzheimer, is your conflict in the same item? We might have to hear that first, if that's okay.
Thank you. I, Councillor Melissa Holzheimer, have a declarable conflict of interest in agenda item G4.4, Community Investment Program, Connected Communities Fund, as I am a director of Not-for-Profit HQ Limited, which was an applicant to the relevant funding round. I will therefore not participate in the decision and will leave the room for agenda item G4.4. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that resolves that same question I was going to have. When we discuss this now, I might leave you out of that conversation too, if that's all right. Yeah. Questions to Councillor Patrick about remaining in the room, councillors? Deputy Mayor?
Well, it's not necessarily a question. It is to me very clear that a person that is a member of an organisation does not have a conflict by just being a member, unless, like, for example, Councillor Holzheimer, that's very specific. She's a director and executive member of the organisation, and that constitutes a conflict. But yeah, I'm just don't understand why we have to declare this sort of, have these conversations every time someone's a member of someone, which is not even the person, is a family member as well. So.
Tanya's looking at me, and then I'll go back to Councillor Patrick. Did you want to respond to that?
Just to confirm that this membership is a little bit different to membership of a sporting organisation, whereas Councillor Patrick has just highlighted her potential for there to be some sort of financial benefit from it. I believe that's the basis of her conflict, as opposed to just membership.
Okay, so then if the person believes there might be a financial benefit, then I will suggest that that person doesn't stay in the room. I'm not really, if there is a financial benefit, I'm just now we have to decide.
Oh, we do have to decide. Yeah, that's the legislation. My personal opinion is it's the Buy Local campaign, which supports all businesses in the Gladstone region, and to be fair, the benefit to McDonald's, probably one of the largest advertising firms in the nation outside Woolworths and Coles. I'm not sure our tiny Buy Local campaign is going to have a significant dent on who goes to Macca's and buys a Big Mac on the weekend. It's probably more likely in reverse that your support for the Chamber helps support other businesses in our region. I don't see a conflict, but I get the nervousness around.
If you're saying that you might get a financial benefit, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Councillor.
It's difficult.
My predicament is I don't know whether we will do, my husband will decide to do the buy local or not.
So you might not even do it.
That's correct.
Lisa, advice?
Sorry, no, if I may, just to clarify, it's not the job of other councillors to determine whether a conflict exists or not. It's been declared, so the councillor believes they have one. Your job is to decide whether they should participate in the decision-making or not, or provide some other conditions. So.
Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy for Councillor Patrick to remain in the room and just not be part of the decision-making.
There you go. That's the easiest way out of it. Happy to support that. Any other comments, questions, councillors?
That means that Councillor Patrick won't be voting?
That's correct.
Okay, great, thank you.
If this motion is moved.
Happy to support that.
Tanya?
Just to clarify, participating in the decision also includes participating in the discussion.
yes.
So is she able to participate in the discussion but not vote?
Yeah, that's what I think I just heard. Yeah. And are you happy to second that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, further questions? I'll put the motion that Councillor Patrick remain in the room and not vote on the matter. All in favour? Thank you. The motion's carried. We'll move. Any further conflicts of interest? Before we move to our deputation, we'll move to the Mayor's statement on current issues. And first, I'd like to start by mentioning our Central to the Fence Community Town Hall that was held on Thursday, the 5th of February, at the port facility there on East Shores, for those who would know it as the old Club Marina, Visions nightclub, Players nightclub. Certainly much more sophisticated facility these days than it was when I was a teenager. But look, it was great to be able to host the town hall for the Central to Defence. It's just making sure that everyone in the Gladstone region understands completely how we're working with our neighbours in Rockhampton and Livingston to bring a greater defence presence into the Gladstone region and into central Queensland. As we know, the Navy are very keen to be involved in Gladstone and have a greater participation, as has been cited by the Chief of Navy himself about how Gladstone is very supportive of defence and very supportive of the Navy. So it would be great for central Queensland to see that. We've seen the benefits, as I've said in this chamber many times, of what defence has done for Darwin and what defence has done for Townsville and for other cities around Australia. They certainly help diversify our economy. And not that we need to diversify away from industry. We're very big industry supporters, but you want to make sure that there's other industries, including defence, in the Gladstone region in the years to come. And it's not something that'll happen overnight. It's something we've been working on for a number of years now. And that town hall was just to keep the community updated. Saturday the 7th of February, the Dolphins and the Capras, and congratulations, Councillor Churchill, your team won. But that's all right. The Capras put on a good show, so well done to the CQ Capras for supporting the Dolphins to come to Gladstone again. And of course, all the Gladstone teams did win the curtain raisers. Thank you for Rockhampton and Central Highlands for turning up. But I'd like to thank our teams, of course, for winning on the day, and the All Abilities game that was played with the Capras beforehand was just fantastic to see as well. And as I've said before as well, it's all about getting involved in the community, and for those who were there on the day, the coaching clinics beforehand, the visits to the school is what it's all about. But at halftime, when you saw the field of Marley Brown Oval absolutely packed with kids out there having a good time, that's more important than the game itself. Yesterday we had the Skilling Queenslanders for Work ceremony. Thank you, Councillor McClintock and Councillor Cameron, for attending that event. And upcoming, we have tomorrow the Community Forum in Agnes Water, which will be a huge day in Agnes. Our planning team have been down there for most of the week. I'm looking forward to catching up with locals in Agnes tomorrow. And of course, this weekend, continuing with Agnes Water, it's the Agnes Blues, Roots and Rock Festival. Still time to get your tickets, and I believe Councillor Churchill and Councillor McClintock are opening that for me on Friday night. So thank you for that, councillors. And for those who haven't got your tickets online, get in there and get your tickets now, because it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Youth Week, Council is inviting expressions of interest from community groups to deliver youth-led events for Youth Week in 2026. Funding for up to $1,000 is available per event to support a range of activities, and Youth Week is the 11th to the 19th of April. And the target group, of course, is young people aged 12 to 25. Applications close 5 p.m. on the 23rd of February, so jump on Council's website for more information. And just finally on Parks Week, which is just around the corner, from next Friday, the 27th of February, until Sunday, the 8th of March, which just happens to be the birthday of my granddaughter, which is pretty important. Parks Week, which is a fantastic opportunity to shine a light on the vital role our green spaces play in supporting healthy, connected, thriving communities. And a couple of the events I'll mention, we have Moonlight Movies in Calliope's Bunting Park. In Millennium Esplanade, they've got Pilates and yoga and prams and picnics. That should be a lot of fun. And of course, yoga at SC Rescue Park in 1770, just a number of events to mention through Parks Week. But you can find out more about that on Council's website as well. And before we move into our deputations, I'd like to thank Kyle and Benjamin Jacobs, who are doing the live streaming for us this morning. Benjamin is a local boy, and he's our trainee technician in there this morning. He's thinking, oh no, Mr Mayor, why did you do that? But as I said, it's so important, our traineeships and apprenticeships of the Gladstone region, training the next generation. And he is a long-term local family member of the Gladstone region, and I'm so proud to see he's part of our team here at Council. The next item on the agenda, councillors, is the confirmation of the minutes, G2.1, the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 3rd of February. And move it, please. Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer, Councillor McClintock. And I usually get you, Churchy, but you're not there today. Any questions or comments? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? The motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move to our deputation now from Private Energy Partners, and I'll welcome Robert Lindsay and Peter Masters. I'll welcome Peter back to the Chambers, former councillor for many years on the Gladstone Regional Council. And I'll hand over to you, Robert, who's going to lead us through the deputation. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mayor Burnett. Thank you, councillors, for the opportunity to provide you with an update on the Gladstone SDA Energy Hub project. This project has been under development now, or under consideration for almost a year. There's been a lot of progress in the last year, and I'm very pleased to be able to provide the council with an update on that progress. With me today, so myself, Senior Director, I'm head of the Central Queensland region for Private Energy Partners. We have a number of projects in the region, which include minerals projects, processing projects, and this energy project. Lindsay Wowar, who's on my left here, who is the Stakeholder and Community Relations Manager for Private Energy Partners, who has been leading our stakeholder engagement for this project. And Peter Masters, who, as you said, Mayor, many of you will know, who is staffing our Visitor Information Centre on Goondoon Street here, and helping us make sure that all the stakeholders in Gladstone are able to communicate with us about the project. Two purposes here: provide you with an update on the project. I also want to highlight that we have a drop-in community information session coming up on the 12th of March, and I'll provide some more information about that later in the presentation. Just first of all, a recap about the project, and this is a project which is the right project and it's in the right place. It's a multi-stage, multi-technology grid stability project. It is the right project because the mix of technology that it has is able to provide stability to the grid as the transition to renewables progresses. It's a combination of ABES, synchronous condensers and open cycle gas turbines, and the way they combine is that as the renewable transition progresses, there'll be periods of time where there's excess electricity, there'll be periods of time where there's excess demand. When there's excess demand, the batteries can step in and provide power into that excess demand, but there will always be times when the need for electricity outstrips the supply for a longer period than a battery can supply. And that's when the turbines step in as a generator of last resort to make sure that the electricity supply continues even if the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. They're also twinned with synchronous condensers, and synchronous condensers provide stability to the grid, which a standalone renewable project finds difficult to do. So put all of this technology together, and this is a project which allows Gladstone to continue as an industrial hub as the renewable transition progresses. It's in the right place because it's in the Gladstone SDA, which is zoned for heavy industry. This is a large industrial project. It makes sense for it to be in the Gladstone SDA. We're planning to develop this in 3 stages. The first stage can proceed immediately, subject to approvals. We're targeting for a construction start date of Q2 2027. and then target operations in Q1 2029. There are 2 additional stages. Those stages can progress in line with the Gladstone PTI project. So the transmission augmentation, which Powerlink is proposing to complete, once that's complete, the additional 2 stages of this project can feed power and stability into the grid through that additional transmission. It's important to highlight where it is. So this is in the centre of the Gladstone SDA. It's appropriately zoned, and it's next to a key node in the Queensland electricity network, which is the Larkham Creek substation. This is important because it allows electricity to go into the grid where it's required, next to the industrial centres. It's also close to the Larkham Interconnect. The Larkham Interconnect sits on the pipelines that go to Curtis Island. And so the project, being close to those 2 pieces of infrastructure, minimises the additional transmission and the additional gas network which has to be developed. And what that means is lower impact because there's less clearing and there's less land disturbance. It's also important that it's in the Gladstone SDA because it's remote from sensitive receptors. So the nearest residential dwelling to this project is nearly 5 kilometres away. And while that means that we have neighbours and we are engaging with those neighbours and discussing with those neighbours what the project means, it means that the impact from a project like this is minimised in the Gladstone area because it's in a place that's designed for these kind of projects. So where are we at? So, as I said, the project's been going around about a year. A big focus for us was submitting the SDA application to the Office of the Coordinator General, and we did that at the end of the year. This project being in the Gladstone SDA, the primary assessing authority is the Office of the Coordinator General. It refers out to various referring agencies, and Gladstone Regional Council will be one of those referral agencies. And we're looking forward to tapping into Council's local knowledge about the area so that we can understand how the project fits into the Gladstone region more generally. So after we made that application, we had confirmation that the application was properly made last month. We are also in parallel progressing federal approvals. So we've done the ecology background work that we need to do to submit it for EPBC referral to determine whether it's controlled by the EPBC Act or not. That submission will be made in the coming weeks. And our engineering and design activities are progressing. So we are in the process of selecting the particular technology that will be used here, what type of turbines will we use, how will we design the substation, those sort of things. They're all progressing, and bringing all of those work streams together is what we're aiming for so that we can take a final investment decision in the first quarter of next year. While we've been doing that, we've been engaging with the community as well. So last year we did publicly launch the project. We've been providing community and stakeholder engagement. The council has been one stakeholder who we've engaged with. We've engaged with others. We've done community drop-in sessions already. We've had direct meetings with our closest neighbours. We've presented to the Yarwun Grow Group. This evening we have a presentation to the Mount Larkham Progress Society, and as I said, we've got a community information session planned on the 12th of March for anyone to drop into. That's been going on in parallel with a social impact assessment. Now, because this project is in the SIA, the way it's regulated is determined by the Office of the Coordinator General. We voluntarily undertook a social impact assessment which started in September last year because for an infrastructure project of this type we wanted to make sure that we understood what the impacts were, and it's just good development practice to do that impact assessment. That impact assessment is nearing completion. We expect that it will be completed in the next month or so, and then that will feed on to us understanding exactly what the impacts are, and that will flow into how do we share benefits amongst the community to deal with the impacts that we identify through the social impact assessment. We've become sponsors of the Mount Larkham Show, and we're about to engage with the GEA for a local procurement program which will allow the industry that's already in Gladstone to participate in the construction of this project. I think I'm happy to leave it there. That's where we're at. I'm very happy to take questions about the project from any councillors.
All right, questions, councillors? Sure. Councillor Holzheimer.
Thank you. Really thorough presentation, and I like that you talk about the right location and the right project, because that is really important, and that's exactly what the SDA is designed for. Yes. So my question might be more for Pete, actually, in regards to what has been the community sentiment in regards to the engagement you've had about the project, the types of questions that you're getting, and what that looks like so far. Thanks.
I'll take this one. We'll soon, if we'll turn yours off. You have a go.
That's a great question, Councillor Holzheimer. As we've moved around, and we've got the community hub up in Condolences Street, so we've had some people drop in there. And I think it'd be fair to say the vast majority of people are quite accepting of this project, and they can understand with the mix of technology that Rob spoke about what benefits it could have through to the local industry and helping secure and maintain a lot of the existing jobs that are there. And again, as Rob said, it's in the centre of the state development area, which is designated for heavy industry. But we are very appreciative of the fact that there is some communities out there, and there is some neighbours and stuff as well. So we have had that direct conversations and that interaction with them, the engagement. But it's overarching been a very positive feeling from the community members.
Without actually having specific examples of where people have been uneasy, let's say, what's the process look like from private energy partners to try to resolve those conflicts or those challenges as they arise, if and when they do?
I think the way we approach it, and it's difficult without a practical example because we haven't actually had a lot of pushback on this project. But the way we deal with issues like that generally is with transparency. So we meet with people. If they express concern, we meet with them. We understand their concerns. We educate about the project. And then if there are impacts, then we seek ways to mitigate those impacts to the extent that they can be mitigated. But the key to it is transparency and information. That's why we're here in a public session providing this update to the council and the community, and thank you to the live streamers for making it live, so that people know what's happening there, because the key to resolving conflict is about transparency and understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I've got Councillor Wagner, McClintock and Cameron, and then Patrick. Wait, I lost Councillor Wagner. I'll come back to Councillor Wagner, but then I'll go McClintock, Cameron, Patrick, and then Churchill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. It's some really interesting pieces to this puzzle that we don't see in these conversations generally. So it's really refreshing to hear. I will just say there's a difference between achieving or doing an SIA and actually using that process to see how it impacts and addressing those impacts, rather than just trying to see what is the minimum to get across the line. And it's refreshing to hear you speak from that language. I'll just thank you. I really hope that continues, and I'm sure it will. I guess my question through this process is, you outlaid some of those next steps. What do you see as perhaps the next hurdle or challenge that you guys are going to have to overcome to get to a place where we see this actually happening?
That's a very good question. There are a number of work streams that have to come together in order for a project like this to work. I've focused today on the community impacts, which is one work stream which we have to deal with. We have to deal with a permitting work stream, and we're working through the OCG process for that, and we'll work through the federal process if we need to. What I haven't spoken about yet is the need to bring it together from an economic point of view. So in order for a project like this to work, you need to make sure that you have an off-taker who is able to support the project by taking the electricity and the services that it produces. We have an MOU at the moment with Stanwell, and that is a process where we will work through the commercials with the aim of securing the financial future of the project together. And once we do that, that's really the key that unlocks the ability to then place your orders for long lead items, start doing workforce planning, start engaging contractors. So that's the big milestone for us, is working through that process to commercially secure the project. Once we've done that, that then unlocks the ability to progress all the other work streams.
Beautiful, thank you very much. And I'll just say too, I know you'll be very familiar with it, but the CBA policy that we've developed, and obviously we'll be having a discussion about today as well, will give you a lot of that information that you guys are chasing, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it. And what our community continues to tell you, we'd appreciate that information back too. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to understand the many voices in this situation. But thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner's back, so I might go back to Councillor Wagner. Now you're on mute, maybe? Mute. Councillor Wagner, we can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yes. Over to you.
Hello. Sorry about that. Yeah, no, my work phone I was using, it overheated. So I do apologise. Had to pop up with another phone to be able to video. So thank you. Look, gentlemen, thank you for coming in today. It was a good presentation, and I suppose Councillor Melissa has already sort of captured, I suppose, where I'm at. It's in the right area, and yeah, I just thank you for keeping us up to date. It looks like a great project. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, it's all about these community benefit schemes and our social impact assessments. Very controversial, and they're very, very new, so it is a bit of a developing thing, and it is creating a bit of concern through the communities. I think the concern is that maybe with the community engagement we have, are those periods long enough? Are they in depth enough? Because there is some concern there that they haven't captured everything. Well, you won't on an initial. Is there a review process on your social impact on the community as it develops? If it comes to light that certain things were not necessarily picked up in the initial assessments, do you have a review process for that? And what would it be annual, or would it be 6 monthly?
Do you want to take that, Lindsay, or I'm happy to? Okay, so look, thank you for the question. I think it's important to realise, and we certainly do, that interacting with the community doesn't stop when the social impact assessment is done. Mm-hmm. So a project like this, which is going to be embedded into the community, embedded into the fabric, of Gladstone, there needs to be an ongoing dialogue about the project with the community, and we certainly recognise that. The social impact assessment is all but done. Mm-hmm. It's not complete, so I can't tell you the exact findings, but what I can say is on the draft that we have so far, there are review periods where we look at what the impacts were that we assessed, we look at what the mitigations that are in place, or the ways that we deal with those impacts, and we review both of those to make sure that we've captured all the impacts and that the mitigations that we're putting in place work. The frequency of those periods, I would be lying if I could tell you off the top of my head what they are, but there certainly will be regular reviews of both the impacts that we've assessed and the mitigations that we've put in place.
Yeah, thanks for that. I suppose people have got to realise too that the benefit scheme that you're developing with the social impact assessments is a stepping stone as far as your applications are concerned, because it won't go to the Coordinator General until such time as that assessment has been assessed and a community benefit scheme is in place.
That's actually not
No,
quite,
no.
not quite
Is that
correct.
not quite
It's
right?
in the
So
state development area. It's a
because
little
we're
bit
in the
different.
state development area, the assessment is under the State
Under
Development
state, that's SARA,
and
is it?
Works Organisation Act, rather than being under the Planning Act. So the Planning Act system of needing to do that work before you apply, that doesn't apply in the
Doesn't
SDA.
apply to you.
The way it is in the SDA, we've made the development application, and in parallel, we're doing the social impact assessment. So it's not that it replaces the need to do it, it's just that it's done in parallel.
Okay.
And that's part of the benefit of being in a state development area, is that it allows you to undertake a number of work streams at the same time in order to get to the outcome that you're looking for.
Okay, so that means you're, as you say, your applications for your developer are in parallel
That's right.
as you move forward.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good.
Before I go to Councillor Patrick, just on that, it's voluntary social impact assessment because it's in the state development area, but I have no doubt the Queensland Government will be very keen to see what your social impact assessment being involuntary looks like, and I don't doubt that we'll get a chance to see that as a council as well, to see whether we are happy with it as how it reflects on our own CBAs that we've developed as a policy in conjunction with other councils right across the state of Queensland of what we think is acceptable for projects like this. Being in the state development area, meant for major industry, and I know you're not suggesting this, doesn't exempt a project from a community benefit agreement, which is why you've done your voluntary impact assessment, and we appreciate that, because you didn't have to, but I have no doubt by the time you're ready to get your approval that the state will probably have enforced a CBA on projects in the GSDA as well. It's such a massive area, so many projects are looking at building in there, and so it's highly likely that a CBA will be compulsory potentially before you get a final approval, but the fact that you're doing it now means that you'll be ready if that's the case. It may not be. We'll wait and see what the state government does on that. It's all new territory for everybody.
Yeah, and I think for us, you know, we're cognizant of the fact that we're probably the first project that has gone for DA in a state development area since the change in the planning legislation about State Code 27 has been in place.
Mm-hmm.
So we're eager to work with the OCG as well to understand what that means for the project in the SDA. I think as a general statement, there's no doubt that this project will have to be cognizant of the performance criteria that are set out in State Code 27, which is the one that deals with large-scale battery installations.
Yeah.
How that looks like, you know, we'll work through that once the SIA is finished, but we're certainly undertaking the SIA because we think it's good development practice regardless of whether it's mandated or not.
Yeah, well done. Okay, Councillor Patrick.
That's fine, Mr Mayor, you've kind of stolen my thunder.
Sorry.
With some questions, and they've eloquently answered them, so thank you very much, thanks.
Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mayor. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Lindsay, and good to see your smiling face again, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry I can't be there in person, but some of my colleagues have already asked some of my questions. I've got a couple more. This is a great project and it's in the right location. So I just make a comment to start with. Many of us would know that is what the Gladstone State Development Area was explicitly developed for. High level, intense, major industry, and it's so pleasing, and thank you for being open and transparent in the process. My first question to you appropriately is that, and I made a statement a couple of weeks ago, as we all did when we had another presentation from Powering Up Gladstone for the Future, was trying to get an understanding, because we're well aware that our region is oversubscribed with a number of these proponents wanting to be in our region to deliver their projects. And this is about getting it right. And I did raise the question, hopefully the state government will get it right, because we don't want them to get it wrong. My question to you is that, is this your first and final stage only? There's no stage 2, stage 3 and thereon?
The project's going to be, or is planned to be delivered in 3 stages, Councillor Churchill. So maybe if I just scroll back to my original slide. So each stage will consist of one 260 megawatt BESS, one lot of 400 megawatt gas generation stages and the synchronous condensers that attach to those turbines. There are 3 of those stages. The first stage is the construction and target operations dates that are set out there. Our hope is that the timing of the Powerlink expansion to the transmission network around Gladstone will marry up nicely with the timing for our construction of stage 2 and 3. And so we've targeted the timing of the project that way, but it's obviously dependent on the Powerlink PTI process going ahead in a timely fashion. We don't need stages 2 and 3 in order to commence stage 1. So our plan is that we can develop stage 1 and then develop stage 2 and stage 3 as the network allows it. But all of it, importantly, all of it is in that location that's pictured on the screen there. That picture that you see is all 3 stages as they would be when they were complete.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you for that, Rob, because that is the element of unknown or the element of scepticism when we're trying to get an understanding of what these other proponents in other parts of our region, you know, how many stages they're going to be. But thank you for being open and honest and transparent with that. Are you aware of any other competitors that are going to want to base beside you or be your neighbour or in proximity of the GSDA?
I'm not aware of anyone who's developing a project such as this, which is a combination of technology like this. There are other proponents who are developing individual components of this technology. So there are proponents who are proposing standalone BESSes in parts of the world. It'd be well known that Acciona has a plan for a BESS in the state development area. We're aware that there are other proponents who are considering gas turbine projects. We're not aware of one in the SDA, but we're aware that in other parts of the gas network there are proponents proposing to put gas turbines in. But we're not aware of another project such as this, which would be a direct competitor, and we're not aware of anyone who's planning to build anything next door.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rob. The government of the day was visionary to develop this GSTA for all the right reasons. So there's no shortage of land up there for other proponents of these types. If I could just ask you a question about the council's policy that we've rightfully implemented in relation to the community benefit agreements. Just trying to get an understanding, is there a particular percentage of your net profits that would go to the community benefit agreements or appropriately back into as a return to the community for social impact? And are you planning or preparing to do something on an annual basis that returns back into our community for community benefit?
I think there's 2 answers to that question, Councillor Churchill. The first one is in relation to policy. The project will comply with any policy that applies to it. So not just a policy in relation to community provision of community benefits, but any policy that applies to it from any level of government. Over and above that, though, the quantum of benefits that would go to the community and the timing of those will be informed by the outcomes of the social impact assessment. That social impact assessment is almost complete. It's being completed in conjunction with the community. We've sought council feedback and we do have a session with council planners talking about providing input into that social impact assessment. Once that impact assessment is complete, quite rightly, that will then feed into how we provide benefits to the community. And that will be a combination of things. I think it's probably wrong for me to speculate here exactly what the quantum or timing or nature of those benefits would be in advance of the social impact assessment being completed.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rob. But the good thing is you do see it as a high priority that the social impact assessment must be fully inclusive for our community and with our community.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And we've consulted widely for the social impact assessment. So we've consulted with directly affected neighbours, we've consulted with community interest groups, we've consulted with commercial interest groups, we're consulting with the council, and so we are doing our very best to get all of the information that we can about what the impact of a project like this would be on the community so that they can be taken into account. But as I mentioned in response to Councillor Cameron's question, it's an ongoing process. It'll be reviewed, and so we'll review the information that we've gathered and we'll review the responses that we have to it to make sure that it's an ongoing conversation with the community.
Yeah, no, terrific. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Peter. Best wishes, and just be mindful of the impact on council's infrastructure that the ratepayers have to pay for. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's actually a very good point, Councillor Churchill. That's probably one of the main things we should be talking about right here. So, but I guess we will talk about that when your DA is assessed and we act as one of the referral agencies in our role as a referral agency. I don't necessarily have a lot of questions. I'm very happy you're here. I'm very happy with all proponents, whatever they come from, whatever they want to do in our region, come and talk to us. It's an opportunity to show to also the wider community, you know, who's here, who's interested, who wants to do business in Gladstone, in the Gladstone region. So I don't subscribe necessarily to some of this discussion about the right location. Gladstone region is known for having industry all over the region, and we are a very proud industrial region, and sometimes projects have to go in certain places, sometimes they have to go in other places, depending on what they are, who's doing it, what the infrastructure is around them. And also, I can see from some of the conversations we have here that there is still a lot of questions and a lot of things for all of us to understand about the processes, especially since they have changed towards the end of last year. And, well, twice, actually, because batteries weren't included also in the first changes in the legislation. So because of that, we developed the community benefit policy, which was, we were probably one of the first councils to do so too, because we, you know, very much involved in the transition of the economy, which is something very significant, not just to the country, but also to our very, very local industry right here. Without projects like yours, we won't be able to continue being that industrial powerhouse, like we like to call it. So your social impact assessment, wonderful. Again, it is best practice. You know, it's great that you highlight that as a thing that you did voluntarily. The same thing coming after that, whether you want to engage in a CBA with council or not, that will be up to you. You don't have to. I would love to, but anyway, we have set a policy that I guess treats everybody the same and has a minimum expectation as to what we expect as a council that businesses do here in our region for our communities. Of course, you know, people can go above and beyond, but that's up to you. And the changes have what you're doing in the state development area. It's great. That was the best place for you. There's best places for other people in other places. So, and because of the differences in where we are in the zoning and who owns those spaces, we go through different processes. So you don't have to do a social impact assessment or a CBA, and you directly put your DA to a department that is, in the past, well, it was always the state, but in the past, others that were outside the SDA had to put DAs to us. Now that's no longer the case, and that goes to the state. So we don't decide on the details or the safety or the infrastructure that goes around that. We only decide on we only a referral agency. Not the same as the SDA, a bit different, but I think our community needs to, and ourselves, need to familiarise ourselves a little bit more with the changes so we can have more informed conversations with everybody. So, like it or not, we don't have the powers that we used to have, and that was also pushed by community in a way. So, thank you very well. Yeah.
No, it was pushed by a lot of smaller councils that didn't have the resources.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to get into that because
Yeah, well, I don't think-
I fundamentally disagree with the Queensland Government taking planning powers away from councils, but
Yeah.
I also
I do
get
too.
that these are new projects, it's a new world, and even
Yeah.
our very own planning scheme didn't contemplate projects like this outside of the GSDA. So it's important. I get why the Queensland Government has done it, and I've said many times to the Deputy Premier in his office and to the Premier, this is very good temporary process for the Queensland Government to intervene and help the smaller councils and councils that are going through planning scheme redevelopments right now. But eventually those planning powers should come back to councils, or you end up what's happening in Western Australia and what's happening in South Australia and what's happening in New South Wales, where God knows who, unelected people, are making decisions on planning development applications and taking the power outside of democracy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I never said that I agree with the changes.
Well, it didn't come from the community. It came
Yeah.
from the smaller councils.
I think there was a lot of political push to the state powers to make those changes. So, and that the political power comes from communities and from those people that vote for those people.
Well, let it go.
Yeah. However, I do agree with you. I think it's dangerous that we do not have any more development powers, and it would have been the perfect solution maybe to have a sort of co-assessment role, because it's also very complex, some of the things that we have to deal with, and our planning departments are not necessarily, all that knowledgeable from one day to the next in projects like this, or the ones that are coming through our doors. But we've been preparing for this, Mr. Mayor, like with your leadership, and that's why we have an economic transition plan, and we invited everyone here for dinner, and I love to have a functioning kitchen to cook for them. So thank you very much. Sorry. And good luck. So let us know how you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Churchill again. Is that a new hand?
No, in actual fact, if there was no other questions, Mayor Matt, I was happy to move the officer's recommendation that the deputation from private energy partners be received, and we wish them well.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Davis. No further questions or comments, councillors. Put the motion on in favour. Motion is carried. Councillor Wagner, just need a vote. Thank you. Motion is carried. Thank you, and thank you for attending this morning. I'll pop in and visit you in the Condolences Street office. Regular flat white. Great to see you've opened an office in the main street of the CBD. Well done. All right, we move on to our next item on our agenda, councillors, which is an officer's report. And our officer's report is G4.1. It's the Rutherglen Battery Energy Storage System, the BESS Community Benefit Agreement. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of People and Strategy, Carly Quinn, very shortly. Thank you, our guests, again, for joining us. Thank you, Carly. Thank you. And welcome Ericsson to the table as well.
Good morning, councillors. Happy for
Morning.
me to
Yes, please.
talk? Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. So recent changes, which we've been talking about this morning, to the Queensland planning legislation shifted the approval authority for large-scale battery energy storage systems, otherwise known as BESS projects, from local governments to the state. As part of these reforms, proponents are now required to complete a social impact assessment. It's like we just had a case study on it just prior to now, so I don't know if you need all this now, but complete a social impact assessment in accordance with the state-issued guidelines, and using the findings of that SIA to then negotiate a community benefit agreement with the relevant local council before the state will accept their development application for assessment. Council's role in this new framework is not to assess, endorse or improve the project itself. It is around the community benefit agreement. When this legislation changed, we advocated heavily to the state that potentially the timing of the CBA was wrong, that it might have been better to be done after the approval, so go through the approval process and then have that. Unfortunately, that is not where it landed, and this is the framework that we have to operate within. So Council's responsibility is limited to negotiating a CBA that ensures that if the state ultimately approved the project, then the Gladstone receives a fair, transparent and policy-aligned community benefit. Council adopted its renewable energy community benefit sharing policy, as you know, back in 2025, late last year, to make this expectation clear to all proponents. Today represents our first opportunity for Gladstone Regional Council to enter into a CBA under this new legislative framework. The proponent for the Rutherglen BESS project has complied with the state's SAA requirements and negotiated a benefits package that's consistent with our current policy. This report seeks Council's consideration of the negotiated CBA. Supporting the CBA enables a proponent to continue with its development application to the state. It does not indicate that Council supports the project, nor does it influence or predetermine the state government's decision on whether the project should proceed. Mm-hmm. What the CBA does provide is a binding mechanism to hold the proponent accountable for delivering those community benefits to our region if the project is approved by the state. If the project's not approved, the CBA is automatically void and no community benefit contributions become payable. Consistent with our policy, I think it's important to note that the proponent is required to reimburse Council for all of the costs incurred to date for negotiating the CBA at a cost recovery rate. And no other funds would be received under the agreement if it was void, unless the project is, no other funds other than that cost recovery would be received by Council unless the project is approved by the state and becomes operational. That's obviously excluding any standard rates income or any other revenue that we would be owing due to land ownership. So it's our first opportunity to test our policy. So I'll hand it over to you for questions.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, Councillor McClintock, Councillor Davis and Councillor Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you. It's actually very exciting after seeing all the work that we put in to develop a policy which we were all happy with and proud of. We also had a couple of extra discussions with officers when we started seeing some of these, proposals, or the CBAs. And I know that we have gone back and forth a little bit with the proponents to make sure that the policy was adhered to and that everything that we wanted and we felt that was the best solution for our community was addressed in the CBA, in not just this one, but all of them. And as you said, Carly, thank you, Erickson, for all the work that you put in and everyone else in the team, because it's not a simple thing. I think we went all the way to analyse every single detail to then come back up and decided on that policy that we landed. And I hope people can go and have a look at that policy. It is the first one that the first CBA that we might agree to, and I'm really excited to see it, to see how it goes. Really, this is, as you said, this doesn't provide an approval or a refusal. It doesn't. It just makes sure that if this project ever happens, which might not ever happen, it's not up to us to decide. If this, then that proponent will be sharing the social benefits with our region. So I'm more than happy to move this, the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I have a number of councillors lining up. Is there a seconder for that motion before? Thank you, Councillor Holzheimer. And I'll now move to Councillor McClintock.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I really appreciate in the report some of the clarifications that have been put in there around just understanding what exactly we're deciding on here and what we're not deciding on here as well. I guess the only concern that I have, I'm not the only, I have a number of concerns. Some I won't go into here, but how do we ensure that anecdotally an agreement through this CBA is not perceived as an agreement to the DA? And probably in the second part to that question, I know that's up to them to perceive that, but what can we do, or what are we intending to do to mitigate that? But also, is there a process through that DA where we're actually requested as a stakeholder to give our, I guess, our, whether we oppose the project or support the project separate to this? Or is that just done through us contacting them and being proactive in that space?
Sorry, Helen. Will this one refer to council? Yes, will be a referral agency. Okay, so I guess I might go to the second question first. Separate to this CBA completely, then the proponent still needs to follow their application process through the state. As part of that application process through the state, the state will ask them to engage with a number of different parties. We will be one of them, so we will be a referral agency. So our planning team will develop the formal response to that based on, and that's based on the technical application. So I think there's probably there's two sort of concerns here today. One is making sure if it ever goes ahead, we get value for our community, and that's what this is. But there is also some genuine concern, I think, around the table and in the community around the project, and is it the right project, and is it going to be done the right way and in the right location, etc. That is that other part of the process that the state will assess, but we are a referral agency, so we will have our say on that.
That was my main question, is will we have that say in that space, and how clear is that through this process here? But that's really comforting in that sense, I guess. I guess the overall question that we're really asking here is, does it align with what we asked? And I'm really proud of the way that you guys have continued to fight for that. I know you've approached us and asked us where we're willing to compromise, and the answer is nowhere. That policy is in place for a reason, and it does set out not what we expect, but the minimum of what we expect. And so agreeing to this is as Councillor Muscat so rightly put, is not about agreeing to the project, but it is about, if the project did proceed, this is the minimum that they would be required to give to our community. And so I really, thank you for the way that you've outworked this. I think it's a really strong start. There's probably a little bit of the way they've worded the governance side of things, and whether we're involved in that process and the projects that they want to put into or put forwards, and how we have visibility of that. There's probably a little bit of dubiousness there. So I mean, I'm happy to see that out and address that down the line. I don't think it's critical to this decision today, but just making sure we have forward visibility of some of those things that they want to do, so that they're not doing projects that we already have in line, or we're not committing funding to things that are duplicating those sorts of inputs across the region. So, just want to thank you, I guess, out of all that, and thank you for your clarity.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, Wagner, then Churchill.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor McClintock asked one of the questions I wanted to ask, but the next one I just wanted to ask, and for the community benefit who are online and in the chambers today, what is the risk if we don't approve this to the community and to council?
So, I mean, there is an alternative option in today's paper, which is if you feel that there needs to be further negotiations. So it depends on what not approving it looks like. So if it's not approving it on the basis that you feel there's further negotiation to be had, then we would just go and have that further negotiation pending on what it is you're looking for, and then hope to bring back a CBA that is suitable. If it's not supported just because legislatively, we do need to enter into a CBA. The legislation does allow for some mediation if we can't come to an agreement. We would have to really seriously assess why we're not entering an agreement at that final point before mediation. When or if, and officers do believe it does, we could be corrected, but if it's in line with our policy. So the question might be, if we got to that point, the question might be, do we have our policy wrong? You know, if there's general consent that it meets the policy but it's not enough, then do we need to change the policy? Or alternatively, is it just that we need to negotiate further? Today's question in front of you is, does it meet the policy? And do you support entering into the CBA based on the current policy we have? Or would you like further negotiations?
Thanks, Carly.
I've got a couple of councillors lining up, but that may have answered my question too, but I'm still going to ask it when I get there. Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, look, thank you. You have outworked this really well. Thank you. I suppose it's all new. It's groundbreaking for us, I suppose, and probably other councils too. Saying that, there's just a couple of questions, and I was listening to what the other council have said, and I think Councillor Simon probably nailed a lot of the questions, so thank you for doing that. And listening to Councillor Karen, I probably concur to some degree. What happens if we don't agree to this? Yes, we need to then review the policy. So I suppose what I'd like to ask is, in this being our first one, have we had any areas there that we may need to look at reviewing the policy?
Thank you,
Like,
Councillor
could we do
Wagner.
this better?
Yeah. I'm not sure I can answer that. We at an officer level, we haven't found any areas, and particularly in the conversations we've had with council leading up to this point, I wouldn't have any recommendations for you of where the policy might not be meeting your needs, but you, as councillors may, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the application of it, whether, you know, we tied you up in knots or anything like that, being our first one. But we can have that discussion, I suppose, at a later time. I am curious about the actual, where we're talking about the megawatt hours or in it, because there's no sum there. Is that determined by what is planned or when it is actually built, or if it's built in stages? How does that impact on that actual monetary contribution?
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. That is the best technical specifications is what's planned. As a project goes through its development, project development, it may change. So ultimately, the calculations that are what we're working off is what is planned as part of the development, and somewhat the challenge of what we're facing to consider this before it is considered approved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if for instance they decide it's going to be bigger or smaller or what have you, is there any room that, or does this sort of capture any movements in those plans?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'll take that one. So yes, absolutely, the legislation allows us to renegotiate and make those changes as necessary, and as does the wording in the CBA agreement as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can renegotiate, but is there any obligation then on them, say
Yes,
they
there
go
is.
bigger to? Okay, excellent. The other one
Either
is,
party can force that renegotiation.
Yeah.
when you introduced this, I think you captured, I suppose, some of my thinking really well, is that it's interesting that we've got to do this prior to the state's review of the development application, because I still do wonder whether or not it latently does give the message that whatever project it is, that we're actually supportive of it. So I think that is something that it would be good to look in, whether that can we can do something to advocate for that to be reviewed down the track. But at the moment it's in place, I understand that. Also, I think from the community there is a distinct question about, does it give the state a message though, even in terms of like that they've met their social licence requirements overall?
No. Can I speak?
The CBA and the commitments that are being made in the CBA is part of the remit for the proponent and what it's offering as part of its social licence practice. There's much more to social licence than just entering into some transactions around exchange of funds and supporting initiatives, but it forms part of their social licence obligations, Councillor Wagner.
No, that's what I wanted to hear. So thank you very much for that. So I mean, in terms of this what's before us today, I support it. It meets the obligations. I know a lot of work has been done, and we've got a process to follow, and I think that's great. And see how this transpires. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I've got a couple of councillors lining up. I would like to speak to that as well. Obviously, as State President of local government, I've met with the government many times on this. I can assure you that an approved CBA from council does not indicate agreement by any stretch of the imagination to a project proceeding. And the reason we advocated for it to be the other way around, we wanted them to do their process first and then we could assess a CBA. They're the Queensland government and they don't want to start an assessment of an application until they've met the bare minimum. And so they've given councils the authority to go and negotiate a bare minimum. So there were plenty of tie kickers out there. There are plenty of people who are putting projects forward that they're then flipping on to somebody else. That's why we've got in the agreement that allows us to be able to charge for our officers' time. So tie kickers and people wanting to flip projects now have to get a little bit more serious about it. And people who are just buying up property and holding it and playing neighbour off each neighbour makes it more difficult for them. So the CBA process is a very small step in giving council a bit of say in what the bare minimum we can have out of these major projects that not many of our planning schemes considered, other than our state development area, which is why it doesn't have to be there. So it's I get why people would be thinking that it's possible that it sends a message, but I'm going to come back to my questions in a minute on exactly that, where I've heard from the community, and I want to mention them. But
it's also worth mentioning the difference between the wind projects and how they weren't included in the same levels of assessments, and how the Queensland government has brought that into their legislation as something that they needed to assess. So it's not. It was then solar, and then now later on, 2 months later, became also batteries. So it's not a perfect solution here. It's just there's some things that have cons and there's cons and pros to lots of things. But again, like you just said, Mr. Mayor, is very important because there was a lot of people trying to do things without having that engagement first. But again, it's also difficult because we're going to have agreements with people that then we never know if they're going to operate or not. So, or what we have an understanding of the output capacity, for example, but we don't know what's going to be approved at the end of the day because they might be applying for something this big, but they might be approved for something this small or something much bigger. So we don't know even what we dealing with in a way. Sorry.
You're right. Thank you. I've got Councillor Churchill, then Holzheimer, then Councillor Burnett would like to say something. Yeah. Councillor Churchill, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Mayor Matt. And you just made reference that you said that this was, and you said it rightfully, that this is a small step in the process, but it may be a small step, but it's such a significant step for our region, and in particular, the area of Baroran and Miriamvale. I thank the officers for their due diligence, and then I read over and over the agenda item again last night, and faced with that conundrum where we're actually going to endorse a community benefit agreement on the principle of them returning things back to our communities, and I'll lead to a couple of questions shortly, but I'm still of the belief, and we made mention earlier from that earlier deputation, that be it Gladstone and the surrounds is the industrial development area. That's not the Gladstone region. The Gladstone region has not positioned itself to be an industrial capital for the entire part of the region. So this may appear to be a very good project, for all the right reasons going future in the transition for energy, but it's in the wrong location. And now I attended one of the community engagement sessions along with Councillor Patrick on a virtual process, and it left a bit to be desired through my eyes. So my conundrum here at this stage is just trying to get an understanding of an endorsement of the community benefit agreement in principle that we can go forward. And I said this a couple of weeks ago, we're really putting a huge onus of responsibility now onto the state government to get it right for our region. And I'm hearing, and I heard on the evening of this community consultation that effectively that this project is in an area of prime agricultural land, vital for local farming and the protection of the Baffle Creek catchment. And you're right, what you're talking about there is that, have we got the process right? That's the conundrum that I'm faced with, because I can't support the project in Baroran or in that part of our region, but I'm very much supportive of the policy to make sure that whenever the state government makes a decision going forward, that there is a benefit that must be returned as a result of all the good work that we've all done to put that policy in place. So I find it extremely difficult to be able to support a community benefit agreement without not knowing all the intricacies of that community benefit agreement, and then appropriately endorsing the community benefit agreement on the basis that it will be or it may be approved in the future. But anyway, I'll lead to a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind appropriately, is that, can someone please tell me that this community benefit agreement has been, I'll just go back to the conundrum that I faced last night when I was reviewing this particular agenda item, was that one of the greatest principles that the Queensland government has as a Queensland local government principle, and I've said it many times that we're subservient to the Queensland government, albeit the state government through the Local Government Act, but the decisions of council should demonstrate community inclusiveness. It should demonstrate community involvement in that decision-making process. So to the officers appropriately, can you answer that the community at large, in particular Baroran, Miriamvale, Baffle Creek catchment area, have been consulted in relation to a community benefit agreement, and what percentage will come from that community benefit agreement back to Baroran and back to council?
I will have a first go, and then I might pass to Eric, who has been involved closer in the actual negotiations. So I think one of the questions you're asking, Councillor Churchill, is about the SIA, the social impact assessment.
Sure.
Yes. So and the state guidelines that we have agreed to use as the basis for accepting an SIA and then negotiating a CBA are quite light and low and not very prescriptive. So that is something that, you know, if there are things that council would like to discuss further, if there's learnings from these as we progress, that might be something we can discuss. But currently, the way the guidelines are and our policy is that they have met those guidelines. They have undertaken their SIA with the community in line with those guidelines. Council may wish to have further or higher requirements. We can do that separately if council wanted to do that. That's something we could explore, but currently they've met those guidelines. So therefore, based on that, we negotiate the CBA in line with our policy, and their offer has met that. The second question is, what is the percentage that will go back to that community? And Eric's going to have to help me with this one, but there's the 5% that will come back to council, but it is not from the operating, but that is not committed to go back to that community. Were there any, just remind me, any additional that they committed to go back?
They've committed quite a lot of monetary as well as more program-related benefits to the community. So as part of your policy, the proponent have agreed to deliver their own community benefit sharing program, and as you'll see is attached to the draft CBA, it's quite detailed. There's a number of different commitments with different values, so can't recall off the top of my head specifically the individual items. The additional benefit, or one of the primary benefits that's going to be coming to council, is in relation to that per megawatt hour contribution, and that is at council's discretion to direct to the community for legacy projects and legacy infrastructure or programs that's going to serve that community.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill, further questions? You're on mute, sorry, Councillor Churchill. Councillor Churchill, you're on mute.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It still doesn't give me any comfort though. And again, I'm questioning the process here, which appropriately is outside the ambit of what we're talking about today. But I'll just go back to that community meeting that was held at Barossa, and it's quite evident that the community does not want this project in that area, or the prime agricultural area, and the Baffle Creek catchment, and the risks that are associated with it. So I'll go back to the same question that I asked the previous deputation. Is their proposal stage 1, or is this likely to end up being a stage 2, 3, 4 and forever over the whole agricultural area and the environment down there?
Yeah, sorry.
The protection of the...
Councillor Churchill, I understand your question. I understand exactly what the committee is asking there on that, but this is our officers are presenting a CBA.
Yeah, I know.
Asking a planning question,
I understand that.
which we get an opportunity to do as a referral agency, and I can't honestly expect the people of strategy department to answer your planning question that the Queensland government are going to assess. But
even though it's going to be presented to the...
That's, yeah.
Anyway,
I think Helen's here as well. She's heard your questions and your comments loudly.
All right. Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm not necessarily accepting it, but it's not my opinion. Is that it seems quite evident that the community themselves believe, and they've quite openly demonstrated the project's not in the best interests of the community. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Holzheimer, then Councillor Patrick.
Hi. I think one of my only question really flows on a little bit from what Councillor Churchill has said in regards to, just to remind me more so, is that when the money flows in to us in regards to the CBAs, how will we demonstrate that decision to community that we have made in regards to how we are allocating that money? Have we got to that point yet? And when will we, how will that actually look, and how will we share that with community?
Yeah, thank you. I guess for full transparency, I'll just start with, we haven't really quite finalise that, absolutely. In quite a short period of time, the legislation's changed. We've got the policy together. We're assessing these. We don't know when and if we're ever going to get any funding. Well, I shouldn't say when and if ever. We will, obviously, some of these will proceed and we should be getting value for the community, but we're not sure how many years away that is before that's going to be coming through. Council have made it really clear in the policy around where that investment should be and the alignment to Council's strategic priorities. How we're going to formally make those decisions, at which point in time in our internal processes, and how we will then communicate that with communities is yet to be determined. But I know one thing is that I'm sure that as councillors you will hold us accountable to making it very clear with the community how we're spending this money.
So for us, there's kind of three processes. There's the CBA agreement, there's the planning decisions in relation to this project, and then when, if in the future, money hits the bank and we get to actually invest in legacy items in the community, we're still outworking that.
Yeah, there's quite a significant whole of life relationship here with these proponents, and this is stage one for us, and then obviously the planning side is separate, and then continuous relationships along the way with these proponents, ensuring that they're playing their part. What is it in their CBA that they said they would do? How are we holding them accountable to that? How are we communicating back with the community on what they've delivered? And then how are we investing the money, and what are we doing, and how are we holding ourselves accountable? Yep.
Because that transparency stuff is that theme, right? For people to understand what's happening so that they can be informed of the decisions we're making as well. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Patrick, Cameron and Muscat.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you so much. There's been a lot of work done with the CBA in a relatively short period of time. So thank you for all of your work. I think my question is to do with, are you able to give community some comfort in the amount of work that we have done and how that compares to other councils and their CBAs? I know that our regions are different, but how do we compare with our CBA to other regions to coming to this point?
So I guess lifting up away from today's topic and just talking about the work that we've done, we are one of the leading councils absolutely in the state. There are other states that have been through this before, so we've collaborated with councils both in New South Wales and in Queensland to get to this point. There's probably 2 or 3 councils that are at this forefront with us, and there are a number of councils who are watching us eagerly and learning from how we're implementing this. I'm sure they're watching online now to understand how they can progress with councils. But I think it's really important that we are at the forefront. Our region does need to be able to manage these things well, and to transition, our region needs to make sure that proponents are adding value back to our community. It's part of our economic transition plan. It's a major pillar. If you want to do business in Gladstone, you need to contribute to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cameron.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we're sort of moving away in what we're being asked to do here today. We are obliged to have a policy on this. We've done that, and we have our policy in front of us. We also have a template for any other agreement that comes before us. As far as the amounts of money designated there against the megawatt hours, that will change from different proponents as to whether they're wind, whether they're solar, wind, battery, or whatever they are. The capacity will be based on the nameplate of the capacity of the proponent to generate the power. That's where that comes from, and that will change. So what we're being asked to do today is approve our own policy, which we've already done, and approve the amount of money that's been designated against the megawatt hours. And if the proponent decides to make his project bigger or smaller, that will change. So that's a template for that. I think it's what we're being asked to do today. We're not asked to approve the project. I think just getting too far ahead of ourselves there. So for what's been presented today and the officer's recommendation, Councillor Holzheimer, you've already moved it. Don't know whether
It's been moved by the Deputy and seconded by Councillor Holzheimer.
Then it's up to the state as to whether they approve this thing or not. We can advocate, but I think we're just getting too far confused in what we've been asked to do today. And I think what we've got is fine, and I support it.
Thank you. Councillor Muscat.
Yeah, just a quick clarification, especially for those ones here and watching, and goes on to what Councillor Holzheimer was asking. The reason, well, I guess we as a boardroom here can speak to how we will, once money is in the bank or received, we will spend it. So there can be 1, 2, 3, 20 projects, or there can be only 2. So that's the reason why we couldn't actually stipulate or list any projects that we wanted or wish for in these agreements, because we don't know whether these projects will actually happen. So the policy allows us to then be able to wait, first of all, not overpromise or do something or promise something that we can't deliver, and also be able to pull in more than just one contribution from one proponent into something that is bigger and that can actually provide that legacy, and legacy projects, as we all know, they're not necessarily the cheap ones. So the benefit from one proponent, it is likely that will not be enough for big projects like what things that community want to see happen. Now, there's the other thing that is very worth mentioning is that the money that comes from CBAs have to be linked to the findings of the social impact assessment. So we as a council also have to be mindful that we can't just, go and spend this money elsewhere or in something that is not mentioned or related to the social impact assessment of that project. So that is also another way of, I guess, safeguarding where the money goes. And it is up to us at the end, as representatives of the community, to make sure that we make that happen, including some money that will come from council. So we are leveraging different contributions from different proponents to do the things that are in the social impact assessment and also in our long-term financial plan and I guess wishes for our community. So I guess that's the rationale as to why we have a policy like the one we have.
Okay. Any other councillors? No? Councillor Churchill, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Matt. I'm still at that conundrum, but having attended that community forum, there is no doubt that there is a very strong sentiment of opposition to the project. Now, I'm very keen to support the officer's report, and I thank Councillor Cameron for the reminder. But again, at the same time, I don't want to be opposed to any community benefit agreement that will come into place if and or when the state government approves in an area that we may not necessarily be overwhelmingly supportive of, or the community might not necessarily be supportive of. I'd like to just ask, through you, Chair, to the officers, are we aware, because I'll say it before, I'll say it again, and I said it before, that community engagement meeting that was held at the Baroran Hall left a lot to be desired, and it was not good. And the sentiment from the people were quite strong. Are we aware of how many submissions have been made to the Queensland government? Do we get as close as that in relation to those that are wanting to have a say in relation to the project? Whether that's about the planning or whether it's community benefit or social impact, do we have any idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. As per the conversation before, that obviously happens through the state and then the referral agency being council, but that goes to our planning team. However, our planning team have confirmed we have not yet received our first referral. And yes,
Okay.
so Eric just rightly reminds me that would be because they have not made their application because we don't have a CBA.
Okay, I understand, but unsubstantiated, not necessarily hearsay from the community, there's going to be well over 200, 250, but all right. Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Great project, wrong location.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Any further comments or questions, councillors? Good, I do. In the CBA on page 15, separate to other funding, there'll be a neighbourhood benefit funding. Then 16.4 on the same page is an application of neighbourhood benefit funding, and then co-development. So that in addition to the CBA that we've negotiated, they've added to that, which means it's not the bare minimum. What we asked for was the bare minimum, because that's what we've worked with other councils, as you said, not just in Queensland but in New South Wales, to get something that we can say, all right, well, if this project proceeds, that this is what we would be happy with. I'm very happy with our policy, and I'm going to support the officer's recommendation, but I do have to, and everyone else has had a say on this, and I've been waiting patiently. I am disappointed in the community consultation process. They need to do better. I've received the emails and I've read them from very well-respected people who I know very well, and I wasn't at the community meeting, and I've heard from Councillor Churchill and Councillor Patrick, and I've heard from other community members who were there. They need to do better with their community engagement, and I hope, and I'm sure they are listening online right now, because this is an important CBA for them, and it's an important CBA for us, because it's the first one. But we adopted a policy which I'm pretty confident was unanimously supported by this boardroom, and I don't think we got it wrong. I think the policy is right, and it's right for this project if it goes ahead. But that's totally another conversation for another day, and our planning department, as Helen said, will be a referral agency when or if, not when and if they even lodge this application with the Queensland Government. And that's when the opportunity for the issues that have been raised by the community at that community meeting and to me in emails. But I do believe one thing needs to be said, and I know they're listening online, and I'm sure that they would have had their Peter Masters and their Lindsays and others be watching this process. You need to do better with the community consultation process, because you didn't do it very well. That's my final comment on that. We have a mover, we have a seconder. There's no further comments, councillors. This is about the officer's recommendation, which I'll go back to. Is it on the screen there? That the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to finalise and execute a community benefit agreement with Rutherglen Energy Storage System. Sorry, Councillor Churchill, you have your hand up before I put the vote.
Before you put it to the vote, Mayor Matt, and this is a first of many, and we're going to set the precedence or set the basis going forward. It actually says in the, and I want to support the officer's recommendation, but I'm well aware of all the other aspects as well, as I'm sure our colleagues are. Couldn't we not, and I'm not wanting to move an amendment, but I'm happy to go in a discussion, could we not put in there if it is approved by the Queensland Government?
No. I mean, no. You can, but that's, I don't know. It's...
Or when it's approved by the Queensland Government, because my strong opposition to it is I'm not opposed to the community benefit agreement. I see, and we've done all the hard work to get to where we are, but it's just a message that effectively sends to our community that we want to support a community benefit agreement that's going to be down there at Barossa, and it'll be with the Rutherglen Battery Energy Storage System. Yeah, sorry, I'm still in that conundrum.
If it doesn't get approved, then it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Let me just say it again. The Council authorised the Chief Executive Officer to finalise and execute a community benefit agreement for the Rutherglen Energy Project. Rutherglen Battery Energy Storage System. I'm trying to read it off there, and I should be reading it off my computer with my glasses. I know what you're trying to say, but it can't get to the next stage until this is the stage. So you can't say, I know what you want to do, I fully get it, but if we don't do it the way the wording is, then the Queensland Government can't assess it, because you're asking them to approve it before they assess it. And they can't assess it until we adopt a community benefit agreement. That's, the wording's contradictory to the recommendation. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I think you've made your point very clear, though, to everyone in the gallery and everyone online, and probably everyone in the Queensland Government and the proponents of the project, if that helps.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, of course, but well, the community do have the opportunity, but they are also probably not necessarily, don't all necessarily have the skills to be able to put an opposition. Hopefully that if those who are opposed to the project and those who support it are able to be supported by whoever necessary to help them put their submissions in, because it's not an easy process applying to the Queensland Government. But I'm sure, like our planning department, we always take on submissions that are not properly made by people who are just genuinely wanting to put their submission in, and they are always considered by council. They just don't have referral rights. And there have been plenty of times we've been sitting around this boardroom and we've made amendments to recommendations from officers on applications from submissions that were not properly made. So that just means...
The point I'm trying to make here, Mayor Matt, is that the community will have the opportunity. The community have already spoken and they're not dissatisfied. You've already made reference to that, but somewhere in the wording there, it just seems to be slightly ambiguous, because when anybody into the future looks at that recommendation, it'll say that we've supported the project. But I know it doesn't exactly say that.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't
And
say
anyone-
that at all.
Yeah, I know that.
It doesn't say that,
It
Glenn.
doesn't say
and that's
that.
not fair to even say it does.
No.
When the legislation is very clear. I know what you're hoping to achieve, and we hear that, but it doesn't. The legislation is very clear. We have to do a CBA before it can even be considered.
I will not go quietly into the future. Put it to the vote, Mayor Matt.
Councillor
I'm happy
Churchill.
for you to ask any more questions. I don't go to the vote until everyone has been exhausted what they have to say. What comes for you, said you support the policy.
It's a difficult one for local government because at the end of the day, the community will be the ones that will be looking for us for the leadership.
Yes.
Yes. That's, yeah. That's exactly right.
The leadership is on whether we accept that the policy that we all adopted unanimously is the right policy. If you're not happy with the policy, now is the time to discuss it.
Yes.
I've got all...
No, very happy with the policy. Thank you.
Right. No further questions? Okay. Thank you. I have a mover in the Deputy Mayor and a second in Councillor Holzheimer. There are no further questions on this very important item. I'm going to put the motion to the vote. All in favour? Those against? That's against, Councillor Churchill? With one finger. I hear you're just slightly against. Got it. All right. Thank you. I think after that, and we have a very large gallery today, I'd like to pause the meeting for morning tea, and we'll come back after that and invite the gallery to join us for morning tea. Thank you. welcome back to everyone in the gallery and to those watching online. Thank you, Councillor Churchill and Councillor Wagner, for joining us online. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G4.2, the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly motions and attendance. And before I hand over to the General Manager of People and Strategy, it has been previously determined that as this is a general business item, I don't have a conflict of interest in this. As the President of the Australian Local Government Association. It would only be if we were entering a contract with them, which is why I declare a conflict when and leave the room when Council votes on insurance matters for contracts with Local Government Association of Queensland, etc. This is just for our conference motions and who will be attending, and I will be attending obviously in my capacity as President, so there is no cost for Council to send me to this conference. I'll hand over to Carly and welcome Kim Roberts to the table as well. Markson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you know, I did Tegan Schuler the other day, so she's been a McDonald for 20 years or something.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report asks Council to endorse 3 motions that we propose to go to the National General Assembly of the Australian Local Government Association and to approve councillors to attend and present them. The NGA is the main national meeting for councils across Australia. It's where local governments raise shared ideas and advocate for change at the federal government level. This is important because it gives Gladstone a seat at the table, a chance to speak up about what our community needs and influence decisions that affect funding services and policies. The 3 proposed motions from us focus on practical issues that matter to our community. The first one is better support for caring for land and culture with traditional owners. This is important because councils manage many public spaces that are culturally significant, and proper support to help local heritage, strengthen relationships with traditional owners and ensure land is cared for in a respectful and a sustainable way is important. The second one is funding to train and keep workers for essential services like water and infrastructure. This matters because without skilled local workers, essential services become harder and more expensive to deliver. Investing in local training creates jobs and helps keep our communities safe and healthy. Last year alone, Council invested over $2 million in our apprentice and trainee program just in the wages alone, and the federal government contribution was less than 3% of that, around about $65,000. Overall, federal funding has been reducing each year, and a reassessment of this reduction is critical to securing our future workforce. The third motion is reducing waste and recycling costs by making companies take more responsibility for their products. This is important because councils and ratepayers currently carry much of the cost of waste, and strong national rules would reduce landfill, improve recycling and help keep rates down over time. If these motions are endorsed, they will be debated nationally, and a Gladstone councillor needs to be there in person to speak to them on behalf of our region. Attending the NGA also allows councillors to learn from other councils, build connections and identify funding and partnership opportunities that they can bring back to Gladstone. Overall, this is about making sure Gladstone voice is heard nationally and advocating for our outcomes that support a stronger, more sustainable community. Any questions?
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next one, G4.3, which is the 2025-2026 operational plan, quarter 2 performance report.
Thank you. So our quarter 2 performance report shows that we're making real progress on things that matter to people, things that our community have told us. Planning for a growing region, making it easier to deal with council and strengthening the services that they rely on every day. You'll see that we're getting ahead on future planning to give the community more certainty about how our region will grow. We're progressing through our service planning to better understand what services our community value most and our councillors value most so that we can invest wisely and deliver them predictably. Our community should be starting to see improvements in how they can access information from us, including a refreshed website that helps us find what they need faster. Behind the scenes, we're strengthening the systems that keep the community running, from business continuity planning to improving the way we manage maintenance and capital projects so services stay reliable even when things don't go to plan. And importantly, we're continuing to invest in accountable leadership and accountable community-focused leadership across council, which is already resulting in clearer decisions and better service experiences. Overall, this quarter reflects a council that's planning ahead, improving how we deliver services and working hard to make things simpler, more consistent and more reliable for the people who live, work and invest in the Gladstone region. Any questions?
No. How easy is that to read? Well done. Councillor McClintock, question, or are you moving?
One or both.
Yes.
Sorry, one or both. I just had a point of clarification on page 15, the optimising capital projects. Just what it actually meant in that first line in particular. The implementation of our project management software has experienced some delays as the finance data setup is defined within the system. In very basic, because I'm sure there's lots of details to what that line actually means. But is that a ongoing risk that's going to be hard to manage? Is that just something we've just overcome? What does that mean?
You've
Please?
come to the right person for basic on this topic. So,
Excellent.
but in fact, we were just talking about it at our asset management steering group meeting yesterday around how that is set up. And so when you get new software, it's always a question as to whether you're going to make it fit the existing systems that you have, or whether you're going to configure things or whether you're going to change your system to make it fit the software. Technically, across council, we have a design not to change technology and to take out of the box, because that does become lower risk in the long term and easier to maintain. So the group did take a little bit longer to decide what processes may need to change, how this new module fits into the existing financial modules that we have, but pleasing to hear yesterday that that has progressed. It's taken the timeline extended, which is why it's noted there, but it's been able to make up in other areas, so it won't delay the project. And I think the work that has gone in has made sure that we don't have any of those longer term impacts down the track if they hadn't done that extra due diligence at that step.
No, it's great. And look, everything's on track and it reads as really doing well. So I just wanted to curious as to whether that was something that's going to impact down the line. I think it's great. The only other thing that I was curious about, again, not a concern, but the community voice matters stuff, more around beyond, we have our community forums and we've been doing a lot of contact with different community groups and places around our region, different parts of the community. But what are we doing beyond just those forums to actually get that community voice in that process?
In relation to this project or just in general?
Just this future planning scheme.
Okay,
it says that there's a community engagement has now commenced.
Yes.
And I was just curious, what does that look like?
Yeah. I could probably give a light touch from what I've read from Kimberly, but I might just ask Kimberly to come up because she'll probably do a much better job of sharing that engagement.
Thank you. Yes, we've got significant engagement happening for the planning scheme, so I can cover that one first. At the moment, we're in Agnes Water. We're down there for this week, but we have a whole schedule of events that are going to be happening across the region. We've had 51 submissions, for example, already for our tourism amendment. Yep. And we've had 14 meetings this week alone outside of the pop-in sessions, and that's just in Agnes Water. So when we move further around the region, we're hoping for the same level of engagement. So we'd strongly encourage that from the community, because the more we hear, the more we can make it meet their needs. So absolutely. From a more generic point of view, we're looking at our Voice of Customer programme. So when you engage with council, we are going to be pushing information out to the community to respond to a very, very short survey that then tells us whether we're meeting their expectations or not, so we know which levers to pull in order to enhance service delivery to meet their needs. So this is probably a great opportunity to say, if you see those surveys coming out, it's not spam. We genuinely do want to have as many people as possible complete that, and it will be people who've engaged with us directly, so it will be their lived experience, not perceived experience.
That's brilliant. And I guess the only other piece of that puzzle that I wanted to just amplify was so as you move around the region, how do different suppliers or stakeholders hear about those opportunities. And I know there's a way that you can get in contact and get on a mailing list for that. What does that look like for those that want to be involved?
Sure. So they can, there's the Be in the Know as We Grow building bulletin, almost forgot the name of it there. They can register for that. We do have over 500 subscribers already and it's growing monthly. We have the conversations page that's up there that pushes out all the information on the amendments as they're coming out. Or simply email us at info@ any way that they find easy, make a call, whatever's easiest for you and the channel that you want to engage with us, we can make it work. So they just have to reach out.
Brilliant. Lots of opportunities. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm happy to move.
Thank you. Everyone moved. Councillor McClintock, seconded Councillor Davis. Any further questions? No. We'll put the officer's recommendation. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Kim. Let's move on to the Community Investment Program. We have two, and we'll go to the Connected Communities Fund, and I'll hand over to the Manager of Community Partnerships, Bri Jensen. Thank you, Bri. Councillor Holzheimer has a conflict and is leaving the room. Thank you. Small flat white.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm also joined online by our General Manager, Community and Lifestyle, Kylie Lee. So good morning, councillors. This morning I'll present two reports for endorsement of funding under our community investment program. So firstly, we present the Connected Communities Fund, which is intended for higher risk, higher cost proposals involving a more detailed application and acquittal process. Applicants need to demonstrate a high level of competency, capacity and planning capability. This is the first time this funding has been assessed under Council's newly endorsed community investment policy. So the application process included an initial expression of interest with shortlisted applicants invited to present a detailed project proposal to the panel for final assessment. The assessment panel consisted of 2 senior council officers and a councillor. The panel recommends Gladstone Tennis and Squash Association be funded for the upgrade of courts 12 to 14 for dual purpose to the value of $77,000. The panel was highly impressed by the association's presentation, which delivered a clear and comprehensive overview of the project and methodology supported by Tennis Queensland. They effectively demonstrated the need for the initiative, presenting statistics that highlighted the growing popularity of pickleball and the future opportunities for the club in this area. A significant level of detail was provided, including design plans and quotes. The applicant also demonstrated strong financial sustainability, the ability to contribute the required 30% co-contribution and a proven track record of delivering similar projects. I welcome any questions.
Questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor?
It was not thank you. Not a question about it's more like a bit of feedback on the new policy, and because it was a little bit different, especially the steps. Just, yeah, I guess if you have any feedback on, whether it was easier, harder, how the applicants responded as well.
I guess feedback from the applicants who came through to present to the panel has been very positive, especially the opportunity to actually speak and answer questions directly with the panel. As with anything new, especially if applicants hadn't necessarily read the guidelines or attended one of our information sessions, they may not have been aware of the intent of the program. So we did actually have an example. There is one application which was not suitable. It was a very small scale project, so that one had been referred on. Certainly from a councillor perspective though, I feel that the process with the expression of interest and the presentation gives a lot more merit to the applications that make it to the boardroom with recommendation for funding. It's a lot more comprehensive.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner. You're on mute, Councillor Wagner.
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy to move this, but I was curious, there were 2 that were assessed as being, properly made and what have you, and they did a presentation. How much funding in this whole funding pool is available this round?
So councillor, you've caught me off guard there. I believe it was about 150, was it?
Sorry.
140 for round one, but what's not used of that will be carried over to future rounds. And with round two open at the moment, we do anticipate that that will be very well received as the second funding round, and our applicants are more familiar with the process.
So say for an organisation that doesn't get it this round, and there was some areas that in need of improvement, they would be able to relodge that with the updates for the second round. Is that right?
Absolutely, they'll be provided feedback and encouraged to reapply.
Excellent. And the one here that had the low amount, they've definitely been referred to the right funding pool now?
That's correct.
Yeah, excellent. No worries. And with the other ones where they're not properly made, we give them feedback too, yes?
Yes, we provide all applicants with feedback.
Yep. Okay, no worries. I'm happy to move it, and thank you for the report.
Okay. I've got a question, but I've got a mover in Councillor Wagner. Is there a second? Did you have a... Yeah.
Just a question though, when is the next round coming up for that particular?
That round is opening very soon. I don't have the date on hand, but it's within about the next week.
Okay, very soon.
And will be finalised this financial year.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, some of the stuff I want to talk about is in the confidential attachment. So I'm happy with the new process, and I'm happy we have a councillor on the panel, so I'm going to support the recommendations. But I have a couple of questions then regarding, and I'll mention them at the buy local campaign, because it's ongoing. They don't qualify. Where would we? Is this who we're talking about? You've recommended them to apply somewhere else, or is that a different organisation?
So there were two that were continuations of existing programs or initiatives. Under our new community investment policy, they are not eligible. So they would have to look to apply for a different program that is new and not one that they've previously been funded for, or look at alternative options for funding for that program.
When you say alternative, do you mean outside of council?
That's correct.
Okay. But is there possibly a funding stream that could be supported, or is it? Well, I guess for me, and I know you have a conflict, and you've declared that, and we've resolved that you can stay in the room. The buy local campaign is so important, and I'm supporting the recommendation here. But is there a stream? Okay, good. Maybe it comes out of the economic development budget. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Previously, it has come out of economic development, and we've had a partnership arrangement. And so over recent years, it's moved across to the CIP, but since these changes, we've realised that it won't be able to go through there. So we are working with them on what alternative funding might look like, and we'll be able to come back to you and talk to you about that.
Good. That's and all these people that are unsuccessful can reapply. And I guess my next question would be for not-for-profit house. They're funding from federal government. They should know in June about the continuation of volunteering Australia, and I know the Queensland government are looking at funding them through the Department of Volunteering as well. So I'd hate to send a message that we're not funding them today, that we're walking away from what has been a fantastic program in Gladstone. I think I've said it before in the chambers about the Exodus Tutorial Centre was a project that we did well in Gladstone that no one else did, and we don't have it anymore. And the EQUIP program was a program that we did well that no one else did. That doesn't happen anymore because other people walk away. And for those who don't know, Exodus was educating and improving literacy for young children, and EQUIP was making sure our younger generation could work in major industry and get the skills from our industry. Supporting volunteers is so very important, and I think they've possibly set a platform up the rest of the state can copy. And I know that the Queensland Department of Volunteering is certainly looking at them. So anyway, I don't want to send a message by saying today we're not supporting you, because there might be another stream that they can apply for as well.
Yeah, and while their application this time was not assessed with merit to receive funding, they are more than welcome to apply again.
Yeah, I did, and I read all the confidential attachments, but I don't want to go through those at the meeting. Councillor Wagner.
I think Councillor Churchill was before me.
Oh, there he is too. Thank you. Councillor Churchill.
No, you're right, Michelle. You're right. Ladies first.
Yeah, no, well said, Mr. Mayor. I think that one there, though, the idea with changing the policy was to share it around a bit more. But when they're really important things like what NFP does with the, buy local campaign, I think they are really recurrent funding, and I think they should be outside this particular funding stream. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be funding it.
Yeah.
So I think it is we need to look at with these things that we fund year in, year out. Excluding them from this particular stream. This was about sharing the money right across the region and not having it as recurrent funding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And as for the Exodus, it was brilliant, and it's really sad that it didn't continue. It was the best program, so very sad.
It was sad, and the Queensland government thought they could do it better, and they couldn't, and they didn't, and now it's gone.
Now they're not filling that literacy void. But anyway, thank you.
Change lives locally. Councillor Churchill.
No, it was just, I think Councillor Wagner's touched on it, and you're so right, because when we originally introduced the support for the local buy, it was not only about local buy, it was about think local, it was about act local and buy local. And if it means having to create a particular line item annually for our continued support, and hopefully that partnership can be with the Queensland Government as well for local buy. But yeah, no, support that for the future, please.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments, councillors? No. We have a mover in Councillor Wagner and a second in Councillor Cameron for the officer's recommendation. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move on to the next one, which is Community Investment Program Impact Destination Signature Events Fund. Back to you, Bri. Oh, sorry? Oh, yeah, we better get Councillor Holzheimer back in. Bet you she didn't bring coffee. Well, that's much better than coffee. Righto.
Thank you. I now present the Impact Destination and Signature Events Fund for endorsement. This fund is designed to deliver well-established, well-designed events where the return on investment is clearly demonstrated. The application and assessment process is the same as the Connected Communities Fund, which I've just run through, so involving an expression of interest and presentation, and then assessment by a panel consisting of 2 senior council officers and a councillor. The panel recommends the Gladstone Auto Club be funded for the McCosker Gladstone Speedway Harbour City Classic, that's quite a mouthful, and the Easter Street Parade to the value of $31,000. The panel were highly impressed by both the written expression of interest and the applicant's presentation, which demonstrated strong social economic benefits, attracting visitors and enhancing Gladstone's profile as a motorsports destination. In considering the appropriate level of funding to support, the panel considered the level of funding provided to comparable free and similar cost ticketed events. The panel's focus of the sponsorship is to support the free Easter Street Parade and the marketing activities associated with the Harbour City Classic, which provide national and international exposure for the Gladstone region. Welcome any questions.
Lovely. I absolutely love this. I may have already shared it on my social media, not because they're doing it regardless, right? Not because we've accepted their recommendation. They're obviously having the street parade already because it's already all over social media, and I've been asked by them to share it. So the project is happening. Doesn't mean we shouldn't support it because they're doing it anyway. I think we should. The street parade has had a number of iterations. It was originally run by the Harbour Festival Committee, then it was run by the Midday Rotary Club. Other people have had a go, and it's fantastic to see this happen. What I'd like to say is happy to support this number, but I would think we should participate. We should have a float, and do we need to include a figure in here for that now? And does it come from here or does it come separately? Because I don't want us to have just, the back of a council ute throwing lollies out. I think we should do it and do it well. And if a figure needs to be added, I would like to know whether now is the time to do that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Now would not be the time to do that because this funding is specifically for the Gladstone Auto Club in their hosting of those events, but we can certainly take that operationally and discuss.
No. It's Good Friday. I will be at the start of the Brisbane Gladstone Yacht Race, so I'll miss it, but I've attended probably more Harbour Festival street parades than most people in the room. But it's amazing. It's really great to see, and it's happening at a perfect time, just before the start of the yacht race. So anyone who watched watches the street parade will be able to get to the Harbour Festival or get to the Brisbane and Gladstone Village or somewhere else? Maybe Entertainment Centre's live stream is working this year, or
The Raft Regatta will also be on,
happening,
so
yeah.
it's a great day of activities down there
Yes.
near the waterfront.
Perfect. So we should have a really good float. Someone did recommend what it could be. I don't know if I should say it. Possibly not, but Georgia Green could make an appearance. Just saying. If you don't know who she is, then you should pay more attention. Okay, righto. Move the officer's recommendation, Deputy Mayor. Any seconder? Oh, yes, I get a seconder, and Councillor McClintock and Councillor Churchill had a question.
No, it's all right. No, I was quite happy to move it, and having participated in the parade,
Yeah.
I did have a couple of questions. First and foremost, and I've having been in the parade over many, many years, it's great to see it back on the calendar again. Sustainability of this, was there any discussions in relation to long-term funding, perhaps a 3-year agreement, or is that something that's going to come around for the future? And my second question was, and I couldn't read it in any of the information, as to whether they had approached bipartisan funding with Tourism Events Queensland because of the significance of what happens in Gladstone during the Easter period.
Thank you, Councillor. I cannot answer the question in relation to state government funding. However, there was consideration for longer term funding, but we'd prefer to align that with our other 3-year agreements when we put those in place, and we are nearing the end of those. So we'd like to look at those all together in a future funding round.
Okay, terrific. No, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. Pleased to hear. Happy to support.
Councillor Churchill, if I can just add also, the Gladstone Harbour Festival have applied for TEQ funding. McCosker will be required to undertake their event first to get some data that's required to inform a TEQ application. So it's something we could suggest in the future for them.
Yeah, no, terrific, and totally understand. Thank you for that, Kylie.
Lovely. Did have a mover and seconder. Yes, excellent. Okay, well, no more further questions. We'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Bri. And that's it for you. We'll move on to 4.6, monthly finance report for the period ending the 31st of January 2026. Hand over to the Acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Tanya Wally. And welcome to the table.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. Here with me to present the monthly financial report for the period ending 31st of January 2026 is our Acting Financial Controller, April Voicey.
Welcome, April.
Overall, we're tracking in line with our forecast position. In terms of revenue, the first of our biannual water consumption notices have been issued, with associated revenue recognised in January. These water notices are due for payment by the 20th of March. On the back of our strong cash reserves and term deposits, interest rate revenue is contributing positively to our bottom line, with 4.8 million recognised year to date, which is 71.6% of our forecast position. 32.9% or 7.4 million of our capital revenue has been received. Typically, we have a large portion of this revenue recognised in the last quarter of the financial year. However, this month, we've called out the link between the deliverability of Council's capital portfolio and impacts to grant revenue as an emerging risk. Grant revenue is only recognised as the relevant project milestones are met. This is a focus for the teams involved in project delivery and will be monitored. On the expenditure front, operational expenditure as a whole is tracking over budget, but in line with our adopted forecast position, which we presented last month. Capital expenditure is down, and we're currently forecasting expenditure of $99.7 million against a $105 million budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions for Tanya, please? Or April? We definitely should. Have we got one? Councillor Wagner, question.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the report. So what I'm hearing is that the deficit that was forecast last meeting is looking at being managed before the end of the year.
we're of course working towards improving that forecast position as much as we can. It's probably a bit early to provide an update on what that position will look like at this stage.
No, but by those figures, it looks like that we should be able to bring it back to where it should be. Is that right?
Well, we're committed at this stage to our forecast position, and I think that whilst we still have a bit of time until the 30th of June, so some of those expenditure that's not currently reflected in the statements will be realised towards the latter half of the financial year.
Okay. No. Okay, thanks for that.
Councillor McClintock.
Sure, I'll come up with some questions. Probably one is around the water use is high, on the high end of where we'd sort of budgeted to be. Is that a normal curve as to where that ends or is in the relation to the entire year, or is that something that we're expecting it's over 10%, it'll be over 20%? And I guess my follow-up to that is that we have an allocation that we have to pre-purchase. Does that blow that out significantly? Is that a risk that we have as far as having too much water usage?
As I understand it, I don't think there's anything alarming in the figures. We do have 2 runs of water. April, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that?
No, nothing further to add.
And I guess the only other observation was just out of an understanding the report place where some of these operating ratios that are in the bottom part of that report there are kind of irrelevant month to month in a sense that they, and it's in the commentary there, that they progress as we near the end of it. How, in the back of my head, and there's probably not an answer you can give me right now, is just how do they relate to the previous 12 months? Are we in a similar position to where we're going? And I know this is over all of them, so I'm not expecting an answer right now, but it's probably something that was through the back of my head is some of them I don't have visibility as to whether this is normal far, like where we sit as far as how far behind, or is this concerning that we're this far behind? I know they will all progress and they all move, but month to month doesn't really give me the visibility as to what it would be prior 12 months perhaps. Is that worth having as a measurable in there?
We can certainly incorporate that if you'd like to see that detail in the ratios.
Yeah, just sometimes I'm reading the ratios and it says, this is a bad number, but don't worry, it'll come better. Like in relation to like what? And how do I see that visibility of that side of the things there rather than just waiting until the end of the year to know how things are progressing? I mean, I trust you guys have got it and you're understanding all that, but just that visibility, I guess, was something that crossed my mind. But
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Sure.
Maybe even 2 years.
Yeah, that's right. Or the 5-year average, perhaps, of where we would be on this point. I don't know, whatever it looks like, but just so it's relevant to the number.
How about we provide that extra detail in next month's
I love it.
financial
That'd be awesome. Thank you very much, Tanya.
I was just thinking there could be an alternative to where we anticipate we will be, to where we are as well,
Yeah,
whether that's
something.
useful as well. There's probably a few ideas.
Just month to month is
what you're,
irrelevant. Yeah.
absolutely understand what you're saying, so there might be a couple of different ways to represent that.
Lovely. Any further questions or comments?
Happy to move it.
Thank you. Move Councillor McClintock, seconded Councillor Holzheimer. No further questions. Put the motion. All in favour? Thank you, and that's carried. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, April. Councillor reports. Do we have any councillor reports? No? No? Fantastic. All right. No urgent business, no notices of motion, and unless I missed them, no confidential items. Declare the meeting closed at 11:55 a.m. Thank you for your attention.